I was surprised by how many female characters there were in Cyberpunk that really seemed perfect to be a romance, but just weren't. I think it's probably because a lot of us went into this game thinking there would be more available. So, when you don't know who the romances are as you're playing, you just tend to crush on who you like the most. Well, let's get to it and talk about who the most wanted ladies of Cyberpunk are that you can't romance. Hanako. Okay, now everyone probably knows I have taken some issue in the past with Hanako Arasaka, mostly because I really like Yorinobu and don't like being lied to so much. I also don't like sisters who would take their brother and shove their dad's construct into his body as though he were nothing more than a skin suit, but I digress. Someone brought it to my attention that Hanako was not written like this in the RPG, that she was a lot more like Yorinobu in despising what her father did with his company. She still cared a great deal for her father, but get this, there is even a line on the wiki where it says, Hanako does not want to hurt her father, but she has sworn to live an independent life after he dies. It seems to me like her old character would have never decided to let her father live forever. So, given that, I'll give her a pass here. She is beautiful, and the only other Japanese woman you really have contact with in the game besides Wakako. It might be really interesting to see where the story would go instead, like whether your involvement with her would change her choices in the devil ending. Would she turn against her father and maybe decide to rule Arasaka herself? It's definitely cool to think about the possibilities though, huh? Blue Moon. While you actually get a quest line with Blue Moon, I really think any of the Us Cracks girls should be available. They are so prominent throughout the entire game, with billboards just about everywhere. And when you do Carrie's quest line, you get to meet them directly, which was pretty awesome. I was ecstatic when Blue Moon called me about her stalker problem, and couldn't help but think that this would be a great opportunity to interject a romance. I like that she seems really normal and down to earth as well. I think she would have been a great love interest, and getting to go to one of her shows behind the scenes would have been epic too. Meredith Stout. Considering she already has a fling set up where you meet her at a motel, I don't see any reason why they couldn't just add a smidge more and have her keep in touch with V. Maybe meet up with you again later for a real date for those who are interested in getting to know her better. Like if you could text her that you want to meet her again for dinner. Would be really awesome. The groundwork is already there and it wouldn't take much effort to add her in as a love interest. Evelyn Parker. Oh, Evelyn, I tell you what, there is a video coming on this poor woman soon. Her story upset me so much, and to be honest, I think the entire plotline toward the end was needless. It felt like CDPR was being dark and screwed up just for the sake of being dark and screwed up. Evelyn is a beautiful character. I mean, everything about her is pretty awesome. Her outfit, her hair, she just looks amazing. And even though we didn't get to know her super well, like we only saw what she wanted us to see, I think she would have had a lot to offer on a deeper level, especially considering how close she and Judy were. Given how awesome Judy was, I imagine Evelyn would have had to be a really decent person to have earned her friendship. Someone that would truly be worth peeling back the layers to get to know. I would have liked to see them add an option to actually side with her in the game and have it matter. Like, for instance, what if Evelyn asked you to work for her and cut Dex out, that choosing her actually avoids that whole nasty arc, completely deleting its possibility since she never returns to Clouds. Seems ridiculous to just throw away a good character like that though, and in such an awful way. But man, of all the women looks-wise, I would have been most interested in her, like she was my lady crush. The likelihood of them ever saving her from certain doom seems near impossible though, but people can dream, and a lot of people really wanted Evelyn as a romance. The Clouds Receptionist. The receptionist at Clouds is basically like the female equivalent of Mateo. She's just hot. I love her tattoos, and really the entire look is pretty good. You know absolutely nothing about her, so I could only see the possibility of a fling, but she would definitely be a good option. I bet most people were wishing they could just choose her instead of one of the dolls to go back to a room with. Rogue. So currently we get to romance Rogue as Johnny. But what about romancing her as V? I'm pretty sure Rogue is only into guys, so you'd probably have to play as a male V to get with her, but why not? I think it would be awesome and that she could really show you a good time as well. Even the date you go on with her at the drive-in was really fun. I get it, she's technically in love with Johnny, but there are a lot of ways that relationship can go south. For instance, there are some endings where she ends up hating Johnny and having nothing to do with him. So in that case, why not let her get with V? I could see Johnny being really pissed off about about it, sure, but it would still be cool as hell. And maybe he'd even be happy living vicariously through you. T-Bug. This one is a little far-fetched considering she dies just like Jackie does during the heist, and she's technically working for Dex, who ends up betraying you to tie up the loose ends. It makes me wonder what would have happened if she had survived though. Still, a lot of people have expressed an interest in being able to get to know her better, and I can't blame them. I thought she was a fun character, constantly dropping food for thought in the form of quotes, and to be honest, I didn't even realize she was dead until that point where V yells at Jackie in the car about how she died. I thought she just got kicked off the net. So, I was really surprised that they just iced her like that. Still, if there was any way to avoid all of that, she would have been cool to get to know better as a love interest. Rita Wheeler, the Mox Bouncer. I remember watching the videos for Cyberpunk before it released and seeing this chick displayed quite prominently. I thought for sure she was going to be a love interest, or maybe even a love for money option. I wasn't sure what the Mox were initially and knew they had something to do with prostitutes, but even after looking it up, it seems they are all still considered joy toys. So why not be able to sleep with them? I mean, I'd prefer more because the Joy Toy encounters are just lame. I mean, beyond lame. But they didn't even make that an option. So once again, we have a beautiful character model that does nothing but stand outside of a bar with a bat. It just seems like a waste. At least add a side quest in for her, something, you know? Especially after they showcased her so much. I haven't finished every single side quest yet, so if I'm wrong about this, let me know. But I haven't heard a thing about it. So I'm thinking not. Denny, because I just liked her, and I was happy to see a lady with some serious curves in this game. I loved her sense of style, that corset looked frickin' amazing, and I loved that you get a gold-plated baseball bat from her place as well. That's besides the point. There weren't a lot of thick girls in this game, and she was the only one that had some decent hips. People are always talking about how Pan Am is thick, and yet she looks like a twig to me. I still think she's pretty, but definitely not curvy. Still, back to Denny, I would have liked to see more of her. How about another quest with her after the show? Maybe you can help her get the frickin' concrete out of her pool. Lizzy Wizzy. So, while Lizzy might seem a little, I don't know, crazy, and maybe even a little scary, she is still pretty freaking cool looking, and it's hard to say how one should react in her situation. I mean, on one hand, she completely replaced her entire body, and there were some unexpected changes. So her boyfriend went to Arasaka to see about getting her backed up. This sounds pretty awful. That is until later on, when Lizzy actually kills her boyfriend in a fit of rage and then completely changes her entire personality right in front of your very eyes. I mean, one could say he deserved it, or one could say Lizzy is going effing nuts. Either way, she still remains pretty interesting, and since the lines are a little blurred and you're not sure exactly what's going on, well, it might be easier to look the other way to romance her. Just saying. Claire. I've seen a lot of people that wanted to romance Claire, and initially I thought she'd make a good choice until I got a little farther into her questline and found out about the revenge quest and her dead husband. Considering she is still grieving her husband, I really feel like his death puts a big hampering on any potential romance between you two. I mean, even Judy's romance night felt a bit awkward because she was thinking about Evelyn. It's never made clear if Judy and Evelyn were an item. It sounds like they were just friends. But in Claire's case, you 100% know that they were married and that she loved the shit out of that man. It still wouldn't be impossible to get past that for some, but I'd always wonder how seriously she took V, i.e., would you just be a rebound? So that is it for my reel on the ladies. Did I leave anyone out? I probably did, because I can never manage to think of every single option, and this category is a little tougher for me considering I tend to be on the lookout for men instead. Still, there were definitely some ladies that stood out to me, my favorite candidates being Evelyn and the lady from Clouds, although I won't deny, I would have liked to see someone a little more buxom. Where were the thick ladies with an hourglass figure as main characters? I'm kind of surprised actually, because I'd think they would have had some serious body modifications going on in the cyberpunk future. I mean, even today we've got people adding ass implants and whatnot to have bigger booties, so I can't believe there wouldn't have been some starlet we'd run into that had something more going on in the curves department. Ah well, let me know who your favorite lady was, even if it was someone you could already romance in the game. Judy is still one of the better romance options in my own opinion, although I haven't seen Pan Am's yet. I've been loath to start a new game as a male V, for one, because I generally don't like playing as a guy, and for two, there's so much game to play through again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, guys. See you later.